Welcome to Soaring Higher with Rita. Hi, I'm Rita Rocker, international author, speaker, and trainer with SoaringHigher.rocks. And I'm very happy to be back again working with this book, Creating Your Own Destiny, Power Steps for Mind, Body Renewal. This is one that I put a lot of thought in because anytime that we are really wanting to be successful and live a good life, we have to work on the mind, which basically controls just about everything, and then the renewal of our bodies in many cases. And so I'm going to be working from this book and the program and workbook that I have with it. So I'm going to recover a little bit from the last program, just as an update, and then move forward with that. Again, everything is about who we are inside and how that affects everything on the outside, our entire lives. So this is really working a lot with reinvention, which is the act of replacing something to an entirely new version. Now, some of us may need an entirely new version. I know I have in the past. And maybe it's taking up a different way of life or a different career, whatever the case may be. Another word I like to use, these are all R words, is revive, and that is bring someone or something to life. Again, strength or practice back into use. And many times we've set something on the shelf that really was part of our life that was very important to us. And so sometimes we need to feel like we have to be revived in a sense. So activating something that was once vigorous, and maybe it's like, oh, this is dormant, it's too late, I can't do anything about it. Yes, you can. Another one is restore, to bring back to its original or former condition. Now, maybe the original former condition wasn't really all that good. Well, in this case, I'm just going to rebuild it, only rebuild it differently. When you think of rebuilding a kitchen, what happens? It's like, oh man, this kitchen is so old and I just really want a new kitchen. However, in order to get to that beautiful kitchen you want, what has to be done? It has to be gutted. It has to be taken out. And I don't mean gutting as a person, but so many times it's like, I'm going through a really rough time, making so many changes. They're maybe uncomfortable, they're unfamiliar. However, that's how I get to that new life. And so the same thing is with rebuilding. In order to rebuild a house, rebuild a kitchen, whatever the case may be, the old things have to be taken out first before they can be replaced with the new things. So that's very, very important there. And then release. Sometimes we might feel like we're all bound up and we're all tightened up and we don't know how to get out of our little corner, and we need a release into the world that God's called us to really enjoy and to participate in. So it's to set something free, including physical liberation sometimes, as well as in other areas. So it's freed from constraint, obligation, or pain. And many of us have gone through times like that. And I know a lot of people right now who are still kind of struggling with that. And so it's very important to be released from that stress, that tension, and repressed emotions. A lot of people have repressed emotions that are holding them back. So think about it even in your own life, certain areas, something that may have happened when you were very little possibly, or in a relationship that you really didn't want to see go, but yet it had to. So it's an emotional and mental release. So in talking about reinvention, as far as creating your own destiny and reinventing a part or possibly all parts of your life, in some cases, I've seen that a lot. I'm helping out with a group that's with innocence freed or child sex trafficking victims. And, you know, in their case, they need to reinvent their whole lives and be set free. And it's beautiful what's going on here to give them a new start. So reinvention is an intentional, that's the key word, intentional process of transforming oneself, one's career, or a business by altering core habits in order to meet that goal. Now, when we think of core, what do we think of? One thing could be the core of an apple. What's in the core of an apple? Well, that's really the foundation. That's what holds the whole thing together. And the seeds in that core can be planted and grow into more apples. And so we have a core like this. What are we planning in it? What are we doing with that? I've had back surgery recently, and so I've been going to the physical therapist, and he keeps saying, you have to strengthen your core. Well, what's the human core as far as physically goes? And that's, through your abdomen, your chest wall, all of that. In order to take the weight off, like the legs and the arms, your core has to be strengthened. So again, a lot of times, core habits means the ones that are the foundation of where we're going to go. What are we going to keep doing? Are we going to keep doing things that keep our core weak because we're not paying attention to strengthening the core, which could be more classes, it could be more relationships, better ones, whatever the case may be. And so you want to think about that. Transformation, really, I love that word. I love the word metamorphosis, is a complete overhaul. Okay, a complete overhaul of structure or character. Structure, of course, would be everything that we're doing, how we look, where we're working, how we're doing life, but yet character judges all that. What kind of character are we? What kind of character do we have? And so a lot of times there are certain things in our characters that need to be corrected. I know I'm still working on that a lot, even now. And so think about possibly seizing your dreams on the back of the shelf if necessary to move forward. And so when I talked last time, and I'm just going to cover that again a little bit, is realignment of life. I love that word, realignment. I've been praying about getting more realignment back to God's will in my life. And realigning what? Our spirit, which is basically who the person really is, our spirit inside of us. Realigning spirit, it could be soul, which is our will, our intellect, our emotions. The soul is a huge part. A lot of times we live by our soul as far as, strong will, not enough will. The intellect, what we're thinking, working on our brains all the time, which is very important. I'm doing more of that now than I probably have in a long time. And then working on our body to keep it strong and healthy. I've been fighting so many health issues, and yet no, working on that too. Going forward, because that's what we're supposed to do. They can be compared to realigning a car. Okay, so that's really, I love that way of thinking about it, because sometimes, if a car needs to be realigned, it may be starting to wander off, it may be out of alignment, and it's like turning right or turning left. And we do that a lot of times in our lives too. We take a little side road because it looks easier, it looks like maybe a new adventure, maybe fun, something like that, but it's pulling us out of alignment from what's going to take us forward into a better life. And so you think about it, wears a part of the tire out unevenly. So might be one side of the tire is like, oh my gosh, look at the tread, it's going away because the car is out of alignment. And a lot of times that can happen in our lives as well. So think of your own spirit, soul, and body. Does something in it need to be realigned? Where a person, maybe a certain person, needs to go, okay? So that it's someone who's maybe taking a lot of energy, distracting, judgmental, argumentative, somebody that's not necessary. A lot of times it's personal relationships, but it could be in other areas or even in business or school or whatever. A certain place that, oh, you know what, I don't feel like doing it. I'm just going to go to the bar tonight, or I'm just going to leave the place at home. Like, I just want to watch movies all night. Well, I get that. I totally get that. But yet, could I take an hour out of that time, get on YouTube or get on some sort of a class to learn something? Doesn't always have to be educational for a career. It could be something fun, just to learn a new skill and get a little bit of relaxation from what else is going on in life. Or it could be realigning with some kind of thing in your life that is pulling you off in a wrong direction. It's like, no, every time I do this, I'm drained, I'm frustrated, I didn't get this thing done tonight that I was going to, or this thing, because I just kind of wandered off that way. And so again, what are those things that maybe have to be realigned in order to get back on track and end up accomplishing the thing that you really want to accomplish in life? And I know I've done that all my life, getting out of alignment. And so I get that and I understand it. And that's a lot of times because of what's going on in here. And it's coming up with all those negative comments again. We have to let those go. Even in the Bible, it says, old things have passed away. All things are becoming new. So that's what we need to focus on, not the past, for sure. Okay, to get life back on track. Tony Robbins, I love this quote that he had. It's in your moments of decision that your destiny is shaped. Okay, everything we do is actually a decision, and we don't even think about that or realize that, but everything is a decision. I'm deciding I'm going to go in there and get hands full of chocolates, even though they make me drag me down and then my weight goes up. Okay, I just went to a place and bought a lot of chocolate. Now I'm going, I have to give this to somebody. Why did I do that? So that was not a very good decision. But anyway, everything we do is really a decision. Are we going to go to bed early because we have a lot of work to do? We're going to stay up all night and, scroll through the phone. Scrolling through the phone, I have a bad habit with that, as well as a lot of people are nowadays. But it shapes our future. Every decision, everything we do shapes our future towards something positive or maybe something not so positive. And so what we speak about ourselves in our life, what are you speaking about yourself? My sister called me out, the only one I have left, and she lives in California, about 3 weeks ago. And I was talking about some things that I was blaming myself from the past. And she said, stop that. What are you doing? You're calling more of that into your life. And I said, you're right, thank you. I didn't accept it with like pride or anger or well, how dare you. No, I took it as, thank you, you're correct. That's exactly what I'm doing, and I appreciate you calling me out for it. And that was that. So, because what we keep speaking to ourselves, that's what's going to keep coming to us, because that's what we always focus on. That's the direction we're going. You know what? I'm never going to get a better job, so why should I even try? Okay, never get a better job. I know a woman who is having so much trouble with her knees and her body and stuff, and I haven't seen her for quite a while now, but I remember her saying, oh man, a year from now I'll probably be in a wheelchair. And I thought, well, maybe next time I see her, she will be in a wheelchair, because that's what we're focusing on. We let our body tear down, we let our minds tear down, and that can also affect relationships and let them tear down as well. So that's what keeps coming to us. And so we have to be very, very careful about stopping all of those negative things that are trying to pound on your brain and tell you no, and you're going to get out of here. So Eleanor Roosevelt, something that, boy, especially the first time I read it, it really stuck with me. And it said, no one can make you feel inferior without your permission. And I thought, oh my gosh, that's so true. We are permitting or allowing things that people said or did to us to cause us to feel inferior. Like I grew up feeling very inferior from the time I was 5 and felt like, well, you're not worth a horse. You have little value, and it affected my whole life. And so I love that quote, because it really speaks loudly. Am I permitting something to affect my life, to affect my self-esteem, to affect my future, to affect what kind of relationships I have? Am I giving those things permission because I don't feel like I'm worthy of anything better than that? Could be. Happens to a lot of us, including myself. So it's like, no, I'm not allowing that anymore. I'm not giving off that kind of energy that will actually bring negative relationships to me, bring negative situations to me. No, I'm not giving off that energy, because when you walk into a room and maybe you were in a great mood and then somebody in there is angry, crabby, whatever the case may be, and so you walk into that room and that negative energy, you can feel that. And I've done that before too, walked in rooms and it was like, oh my goodness sakes, because you can feel that the negative energy someone else is giving off to people. And so there's a lot of anger in the world right now. And so that's something we have to really be careful not to let that angry energy get on us and stay on us, but to push it away and easier said than done a lot of times. But be really careful with energy. I know sometimes if I've been kind of maybe in a down energy, and then I walk into a room or meet a friend and they're in great, happy energy, what does that do to mine? That helps lift me up. So let's try to always think about lifting each other up with positive energy. Easier said than done, I know, but a lot of times it's like, no, I'm not gonna let that get on me. Instead, I'm going to change the energy in the room. Sometimes, when people are angry or they're very sad, it's basically because they're hurting. And a lot of times, anger is because of deep hurt inside. And so we lash back in anger over that hurt. And so just, really think about that and think, no. There are times when we need to be forgiving or we need to just let go of something. And sometimes all a person needs is a hug. I remember one time when this was years ago, and I was working with Teen Challenge Ministries, and we were going out on the streets downtown, and sometimes it got a little scary. And there was a gentleman who was sitting on the steps of what used to be the library down there. And he was an older gentleman, and he was sitting there, and he was just angry, and he said, "Go away. I don't want to talk to you." And just very angry. And I was teamed up with a guy, as we were all in teams. And I said, "You know what, Joe?" I said, "This guy's hungry. We need to show him some love, even though we kind of bit our heads off." And so we went down into the old market, and we got him a Subway sandwich and chips and a drink and all that kind of thing. And here we go. We came back. He was still sitting there. And we handed it to him and said, "The Lord said to give you this. He loves you." And he looked it up, and he got tears in his eyes, and he said, "Oh, thank you so much." He said, "Someone stole my pension check 3 days ago. I haven't eaten." And I was like, still makes me want to cry sometimes. And so I think about that, and I thought, so many times when a person lashes out is because they feel like they're so lonely. I see a lot of stuff on Facebook, people that are lonely or hurting or things have happened to them. And we need to give them usually love they deserve. So then Joe actually helped him after that to find a place to stay. He again was a veteran. And so he actually worked with him for a while to find him a roof over his head and to be able to help him get what he needed to get back on his feet. And so if we just said, "Oh, that guy's so crabby, we're not going to have anything to do with him," that wasn't the right thing to do. So a lot of times we have to do that too. Let go of our pride maybe for a minute and be able to really give to them. That is so important. So again, an affirmation that I like, first of all, starts off with, "I am slamming the door on the past." I didn't say I'm shutting the door on the past. I said I'm slamming the door on the past. Self-sabotage does not live here anymore. Regret, shame, and defeat have now left the building. We used to hear about, well, Elvis has left the building. No, it's like they have left the building. All of those things. Sorry, you life destroyer. The door is locked and you can never come back and open that again. You can't come back into this building right here. Sorry, you life destroyers, the door is locked. Okay? You're out of here. Will all those thoughts keep trying to come back and bug you? Oh, yeah. So it's a constant effort, at least until life has really changed over for you. So it's intentional concentration on a high priority. What is a high priority? Maybe it's I've got to get a better job. I need to get more money. I'm doing something I hate. I want to do something I like and that I enjoy. That takes concentration. What does it take? It could be taking classes. I give classes on self-esteem, self-image, verbal, nonverbal, written communication skills, career development programs. Maybe it's something like that in order to get into the job that you are really desiring and wanting is to think, okay, I'm going to focus getting the classes, getting whatever I need in order to be able to move forward in that area, whether sitting and playing video games or watching TV all night. That's intentional focus and concentration. And so sometimes it's not easy, because we have old familiar patterns But those patterns got to, just like, if you had a blouse or a shirt or something like that, messed up one of the arms, so it's like, okay, I'll make it into something sleeveless that looks nice again. You got to tear that arm off. So sometimes we have to readjust the patterns of our lives, just like we would something that we wear. Maybe we have to take it in. Okay, that's readjusting it. So think about that. Eliminating things that need to go in order to make room for new life, to empower, give you purpose and accelerate. And so that's so important. It's a lot of times, well, I want this over here, but I'm not ready to give up this person, this place, this thing, this behavior. Well, is this new thing going to be able to get in there then and take its place? No. You can't put new furniture into your home that you really want, that you'd love, that would be great, if you have old raggedy furniture that you refuse to get rid of. The same thing is with our lives. We can't bring new things into our lives unless we make room for them by getting rid of the old. Old things have passed away, all things are becoming new. Okay, it's easier said than done, but that's how we move forward. We have to let go of things. Sometimes there's seasons, like with friends. It's like, well, this friend and I were such great friends, and now something happened, or maybe betrayed. That happened to me a few months ago with someone, and it's like, okay, I feel bad. We were such good friends. Now we're not anymore. It could be with a different kind of a relationship as well, but that's okay if you really sit down and stop to think about it, because a lot of times there are seasons, like the Ecclesiastes, there's a time for every season, a purpose under heaven. A lot of times somebody will come into our lives for a while to help us get through something or to learn a lesson. And when that time is over, it goes away. And so then we have to establish a new normal. And sometimes that can be, again, with a person, it could be a new normal, like, oh gosh, I was let go, company's downsizing, now what am I going to do? All right, you have to establish a new normal. Well, what do I want to do now? What am I willing to work for? A lot of times studies have shown in human resources, which I worked in for many years, that quite often someone might have more education and more actual work experience than someone else, but the other person has the attitude. They have that desire to really be part of a team, and it shows. They have the go-getter attitude. They want to take ownership for their part of the job, where the other person is just thinking, well, I've got everything, you have to take me. And quite often, the one who gets hired is the one with the attitude and the go for it thoughts, willing to work hard, willing to work late if necessary. And I don't mean that as an all the time thing by any means, but a lot of times attitude does take priority over some of the skills in education, because the person with a good attitude can learn the skills. But a person with these skills and not a very good attitude, a lot of times isn't going to learn how to be the cooperative person, the one who would be the best on the team. So we have to think about that too. So discern what is good and what is not necessary. And that again, discerning, deciding, watching, that's all a daily issue that we have, at least at first, if we're trying to change things in our lives. Jeremiah 29:11 says, "For I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans for a future and a hope." There were times I would get angry at this scripture and go, yeah, right. But I keep reminding myself of that because that is so true. Okay, so we determine, what can we do? Do I need to look for a new organization I can be a part of? And maybe I'm too shy to just go mingle with people. Me personally, I'd rather stand in front of 500 people at a conference and speak than go into a room of networking. Why? Because those little thoughts, fear of rejection, fear and abandonment, okay, like, hello, hello. And it's like, no. And so again, we have to determine what could we do. If you're too shy to just get out there and network, maybe you can say, I'll volunteer at the registration table, I'll work with refreshments, I'll do whatever. That way you're getting involved, kind of getting over your shyness at the same time. And I have some classes on, how to communicate with people, how to shake hands with your right hand, keep your drink in your left hand so you don't have to switch hands and this one's all wet, for instance. So there's a lot of good things that could come out of that. Think about more family time. Sometimes it's like, oh, everything's so rough here. Maybe it's just that you need more family time, which some people go, yeah, no, I don't think so. But a lot of times family time, including people in your family, in your life, can make everything more peaceful, more happy. Maybe have a child that you can take with you somewhere to learn some new skills or something like that. So think about family time, classes. I take classes online. I watch things online. I've even watched Stoics and about somatic healing for internal wounds that have maybe gone so deep that people don't even realize that's what's affecting their lives. That's called somatics. Volunteering, again, volunteering is huge. And everybody needs volunteers in a lot of these organizations, but it builds you up, gives you new skills, gives you new experiences and new people to be around, and then also new connections. So think about all those things, sit down and journal it, and then go over it the next day or, read it a week later and see the difference in how you're looking at those situations. And then ask yourself, okay, what changes have I made this past week since I wrote this down? And I'll continue with this on the next program. Thank you.